The airport was buzzing with hurried footsteps and echoing announcements, a place where dreams either took flight or crashed before leaving the ground. Among the crowd, Daniel Hayes clutched his boarding pass tightly, his heart racing with anticipation and fear. This wasn't just any flight. It was his chance to land the job that could change his and his little daughter Emily S. lives forever. Yet just as the gate doors loomed ahead, a small, trembling voice stopped him in his tracks. "Mister, I can't find my mom." The boy couldn't have been older than 7, tears streaking his cheeks as he clutched a worn teddy bear. Daniel froze. His instincts as a father surged forward, warring with the urgent reminder that his flight was about to leave. He could already picture Emily S.'s bright face if he told her he'd gotten the job. But he also saw her frightened eyes the night she first realized her mother wasn't coming back. In that split second, Daniel made a choice, one that would cost him dearly. He crouched down, offered a reassuring smile, and said softly, "Don't worry, buddy. We'll find your mom." He didn't know it yet, but this detour would alter the course of his life in ways he could never have imagined. Daniel's morning had started in the gray light of dawn. He had kissed Emily goodbye as she sleepily hugged her stuffed rabbit and whispered, "Good luck, Daddy." He promised her he'd be back soon with good news. This interview in London was the opportunity of a lifetime, a senior design position at a prestigious international firm, one that could finally pull them out of the paycheck-to-paycheck struggle. The cab ride to Heathrow had been filled with nervous rehearsals of interview answers. Daniel wasn't just trying to impress. He was trying to prove to himself that the sacrifices of single fatherhood hadn't broken him. He had prepared for weeks, ironing every detail of his portfolio, rehearsing every line of his experience. This job wasn't just about his career. It was about giving Emily the childhood she deserved. But when he saw the boy near the coffee stand, sobbing uncontrollably, something inside Daniel shifted. The child's tiny voice calling out for Mommy echoed louder than any boarding announcement. He glanced once at the departure gate where his future waited, then back at the lost boy whose world seemed to be crumbling. Daniel walked over, kneeling to meet the child's eyes. "Hey, it's okay. What's your name?" he asked. The boy sniffled. "Oliver." His grip on the teddy bear tightened like it was the only safe thing left in the world. Daniel took a deep breath. He knew he was risking everything, but some risks were worth taking. Together, they searched the crowded terminal, Daniel holding Oliver's small hand. The boy's tears slowed as Daniel spoke softly, distracting him with questions about his teddy bear and favorite cartoons. Minutes passed, then more. Each second was a countdown to his departing flight, the last call blaring through the speakers like a cruel reminder. "Final boarding call for Flight 216 to London." His heart clenched. He could see the gate just ahead, attendants preparing to close the door. A few more steps, and he could leave this boy in the hands of security. A few more steps, and he could still make it. But Oliver suddenly tugged at his arm. "That's her! Mommy!" The relief in his voice hit Daniel harder than anything. A frantic woman ran toward them, tears streaming as she scooped Oliver into her arms. "Oh, thank God," she sobbed, holding him close. She turned to Daniel, overwhelmed. "You stayed with him? You didn't just leave him?" Daniel forced a smile, his chest tightening as the gate door shut with a final click behind him. His future had just flown away, but Oliver was safe in his mother's arms. "He reminded me of my own kid," Daniel said softly. He didn't wait for thanks. He simply walked away, shoulders heavy, each step echoing the weight of what he'd lost. That night, sitting alone in a modest motel room with his unused return ticket, Daniel stared at his phone. Emily's voice on the other end was hopeful. "Did it go good, Daddy?" His silence stretched long, but he couldn't bring himself to tell her the truth. "We'll see, sweetheart," he whispered. Yet deep down, he was sure the chance of a better life had slipped through his fingers. The next morning, Daniel tried to shake off the weight of failure. He took Emily to school, masking his disappointment with jokes about her hair sticking up like a mad scientist SS experiment. Emily giggled, and for a moment, her laughter reminded him why he made the choice he did at the airport. But reality soon caught up. Bills piled on the kitchen counter, rent was due, and the freelance design projects he'd been doing weren't enough to cover expenses. The interview had been his shot at stability, and now it was gone. He sat at the kitchen table staring at his laptop, wondering if he'd have to pick up a second job just to keep the lights on. As he scrolled through his emails, his breath caught. There it was, an unfamiliar sender with the subject line, "Thank you." Confused, he clicked it open. The message was brief. "Mr. Hayes, this is Margaret Whitmore. You helped my son Oliver at Heathrow yesterday. I owe you a debt I can't ignore. Can we speak?" Daniel blinked at the name. Whitmore. It sounded familiar, but he couldn't place it. He assumed it was just gratitude, nothing more. Still, curiosity pulled him to reply, unaware of the storm it would set in motion. Later that afternoon, Daniel's phone buzzed with a number he didn't recognize. "Mr. Hayes, this is Margaret Whitmore. I wanted to thank you personally for what you did for Oliver." Her voice carried the calm authority of someone used to being in charge, but beneath it was genuine warmth. Daniel felt awkward, brushing it off. "Anyone would have done the same," he said. "I just couldn't walk away." "That's where you're wrong," she replied. "Most people would have walked past. But you didn't, and that means something." There was a pause before she added, "I believe you were flying to London for an interview yesterday. A position at Whitmore Innovations?" Daniel froze, stunned. Whitmore Innovations, the company, the opportunity, the very future he thought he had lost. "Yes," he said slowly, hardly believing it. Margaret's voice softened. "Mr. Hayes, I am the CEO, and I think we should talk." Daniel sat in stunned silence, the phone pressed against his ear as Margaret explained herself. "I was supposed to be on that same flight to London yesterday," she said. "I was delayed because of Oliver. I never saw what happened, but my assistant told me you stayed with him until I arrived." His mind swirled. Fate, coincidence, luck. Call it what you want. But he couldn't ignore how impossible it all seemed. He'd missed his only chance, yet here was the CEO herself, calling him. I didn't even make the interview," Daniel admitted. "I figured I'd lost my shot." Margaret chuckled softly. "Mr. Hayes, you didn't lose anything. In fact, you just proved something far greater than any resume ever could. Compassion, integrity, the kind of values I want in my company." Her words left him speechless. "Are you saying—" "I'm saying I'd like you to come in and meet me personally, not as a candidate, but as someone I already know deserves a chance." That following week, Daniel found himself standing outside Whitmore Innovations' glass high-rise in central London. His nerves crackled like static in his veins. Emily had hugged him tightly that morning, whispering, "You've got this, Daddy," before he left. Her confidence gave him strength. Inside, the building was a sleek mix of modern design and innovation, buzzing with people who looked like they belonged to another world. Daniel felt underdressed in his simple suit, but he straightened his shoulders anyway. When the elevator doors opened to the top floor, Margaret Whitmore herself was waiting. Elegant yet approachable, she extended her hand with a warm smile. "Mr. Hayes," she greeted, "I feel like we've already met." Her office was expansive, lined with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. She asked him about his background, his projects, and his story as a single father. Daniel spoke openly, his passion pouring out as he described balancing freelance work with raising Emily. Margaret listened closely, her expression shifting between admiration and empathy. "You're not just applying for a job, Daniel," she said finally. "You're applying for a future, one you clearly deserve." The interview ended not with a handshake and a "we'll call you," but with Margaret walking him to the door personally. "We'll be in touch soon," she assured him, her tone leaving little doubt. As Daniel left the building, his phone buzzed. It was Emily's school. His stomach sank, fearing something had happened. He answered quickly, only to hear her cheerful voice. "Daddy, guess what? I got a gold star today." Relief washed over him, and he couldn't help but laugh. That night, Daniel cooked spaghetti for dinner, a small celebration for simply making it this far. Emily twirled her noodles messily, sauce smeared on her cheek. "Did they like you?" she asked innocently. Daniel looked at her, his heart swelling. "I think they did, sweetheart. I think they really did." 2 days later, Daniel received the call that changed everything. Margaret's assistant, a brisk but kind woman named Claire, said simply, "Mr. Hayes, congratulations. We'd like to offer you the position." Daniel nearly dropped his phone. "Are you serious?" "Completely serious. The CEO personally approved it. Welcome to Whitmore Innovations." He hung up, his hands trembling. Emily was playing on the floor with her crayons when he lifted her into the air. "Guess what, Emmy? Daddy got the job." Her squeal of joy filled the apartment, echoing like a victory song. For the first time in years, Daniel felt like the ground beneath him was steady. But as he'd soon learn, stability brought its own set of challenges. Starting at Whitmore Innovations was like stepping into another universe. The sleek offices, the high-tech projects, the brilliant minds. It was everything Daniel had dreamed of, yet intimidating at the same time. His first few weeks were a blur of meetings, designs, and late nights trying to prove he belonged. Still, every evening he made sure to pick up Emily from school, even if it meant bringing work home afterward. She would sit beside him with her coloring books while he reviewed blueprints, a quiet partnership that kept him grounded. Margaret checked in often, sometimes stopping by his desk just to ask how things were going. She had an uncanny way of balancing authority with kindness. Her presence made the intimidating environment feel less overwhelming. One evening, as they walked out of the office together, she said, "You're adjusting well, Daniel. Most people take months to settle. You've done it in weeks." Daniel smiled humbly, replying, "I guess being a single dad prepares you for anything." But not everyone welcomed him so warmly. A senior manager named Collins seemed to take issue with Daniel from day one. "Lucky break, Hayes," he muttered one afternoon after a meeting. "Not everyone gets hired by catching the CEO's attention." Daniel bit back a reply, reminding himself that professionalism mattered. Still, the sting of those words lingered. He wanted to prove that he wasn't just a charity case, that he belonged because of his skills, not just his heart. At home, Emily noticed his mood. "Bad day, Daddy?" she asked, crawling into his lap. He kissed her forehead. "Just a tough one, sweetheart, but we'll get through it." Her small arms wrapped around him, reminding him that no office politics could outweigh the reason he worked so hard. Over the next few months, Daniel poured himself into his work. His designs began to draw attention, innovative yet practical solutions that impressed clients and colleagues alike. Even Collins, though reluctant, had to admit in a meeting, "Not bad, Hayes." Margaret took notice, too. One evening, she invited him to a private dinner with a small group of senior leaders. "You've earned a seat at the table," she told him. At the dinner, Margaret spoke openly about the company's future, but also about her own struggles as a single parent when Oliver was young. "It's not easy balancing it all," she admitted. Daniel nodded, feeling a surprising kinship with her. That night, as he tucked Emily into bed, he realized something profound. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was building something lasting for both of them. The balance, however, was fragile. One evening, Emily came down with a fever just as Daniel was preparing for a critical presentation. Torn between responsibilities, he called Margaret. I'm so sorry I can't make it in tonight. Emily needs me. There was a pause, then Margaret's calm reply. Family first, Daniel, always. We'll reschedule. Relief and gratitude flooded him. He spent the night caring for Emily, holding a cool cloth to her forehead until she finally slept peacefully. The next day, Margaret stopped by his desk. You did the right thing, she said. Work will always be here. But children, they grow too fast. Her words carried the weight of experience, and Daniel respected her even more for it. As time passed, Daniel and Margaret's paths crossed more often, sometimes professionally, sometimes through chance encounters outside the office. Emily and Oliver became fast friends during company family events, their laughter filling spaces once quiet. One afternoon, Margaret watched as Daniel helped Oliver build a model plane at a company picnic. Her expression softened in a way Daniel hadn't seen before. Later, she said quietly, You have a gift with children. Emily is lucky. Daniel smiled. Sometimes I think I'm the lucky one. She keeps me going. There was an unspoken connection between them, something both tried to ignore but neither could deny. Challenges returned when a major project hit a roadblock. Deadlines loomed, tempers flared, and Collins was quick to lay blame on Daniel. This design flaw is on you, he snapped in a heated meeting. Daniel stood his ground. No, the data shows the problem came from your team's miscalculations. The room fell silent as Margaret intervened, her voice calm but firm. Enough. This isn't about blame, it's about solutions. She turned to Daniel. Can you fix it? He nodded, determination burning. Yes, just give me the chance. Over the next 72 hours, Daniel worked tirelessly, fueled by coffee and Emily's encouragement. When he presented the corrected design, the client not only approved it, but praised it as innovative. Margaret's proud smile across the table told him everything he needed to know. Recognition followed. Daniel's name began circulating among the company's higher ranks as someone to watch. Invitations to conferences, speaking engagements, and networking dinners began arriving. But Daniel stayed grounded, always making sure Emily remained his priority. He turned down late-night social events if it meant missing her school play or bedtime story. Success isn't worth it if I lose what matters most, he told Margaret one evening. She nodded, her eyes lingering on him longer than usual. You're right, and that's exactly why you'll go far. Despite his growing success, Daniel couldn't shake Collins's animosity. One day, he overheard Collins muttering to another manager, He's only here because he played hero at an airport. The words cut deep, reigniting Daniel's insecurities. That night, he confessed to Emily, Sometimes I wonder if I really deserve this. She looked up at him with wide eyes. Of course you do, Daddy. You help that boy, and you help me every day. That's what makes you special. Her simple wisdom steadied him. In that moment, Daniel realized that his worth wasn't defined by critics or titles. It was defined by the lives he touched. Months later, Daniel was asked to lead a groundbreaking project that could redefine the company's future. The stakes were enormous, but Margaret entrusted him fully. I know you can do this, she told him. The project consumed long days and late nights, but Daniel approached it with determination. Emily sat beside him at the dining table, working on her homework as he sketched designs. It wasn't easy, but they made it work. Together. When the project launched successfully, the company celebrated. Margaret pulled Daniel aside during the event, her voice low but sincere. You've done more than prove yourself. You've changed the way people see this company. With success came media attention. Articles were written about Daniel, the single dad who had risen from freelance struggles to lead at one of Europe's most innovative firms. One journalist asked him during an interview, "What's your secret?" Daniel smiled. "It's simple. I never forget who I'm doing this for. My daughter is my anchor." The story went viral, inspiring countless single parents. Emails poured in from strangers thanking him for giving them hope. For the first time, Daniel realized his journey wasn't just personal, it was universal. Margaret watched all this unfold with quiet pride. One evening, after a long board meeting, she and Daniel shared a drink in her office. She looked at him thoughtfully. "You know, Daniel, you've reminded me why I built this company in the first place, to create opportunities that matter." There was a pause, heavier than words. Daniel met her gaze, and for a brief moment, the professional boundaries blurred. But then the sound of her phone buzzing broke the silence, pulling them back to reality. Still, something had shifted between them, something neither could ignore much longer. Life continued with its mix of triumphs and challenges. Emily thrived in school, Oliver grew more confident, and Daniel's reputation solidified within the company. But beneath the routine, a question lingered in Daniel's heart. Was there room in his life for more than just work and fatherhood? Margaret, too, wrestled with the same thought. As CEO, she carried immense responsibility. But as a mother, and perhaps as a woman, she couldn't deny the admiration she felt for Daniel. The universe had brought them together once before at an airport. Could it be leading them somewhere again? One rainy evening, Daniel received an unexpected invitation. Margaret had asked him and Emily to join her and Oliver for dinner at her home. Nervous but curious, Daniel agreed. Her home was warm and elegant, filled with personal touches that revealed a side of her few saw. Emily and Oliver disappeared into the playroom, their laughter echoing through the halls. Over dinner, Margaret spoke not as a CEO, but as a woman who had weathered her own storms. "You've built something incredible out of hardship," she said, "and you've done it with grace." Daniel met her eyes. "Maybe it's because I wasn't doing it alone. Emily was always with me, and lately, so were you." The connection that had been quietly growing between them finally found its voice that night. As they stood by the door, Daniel preparing to leave, Margaret said softly, "You know, missing that flight may have been the best thing that ever happened." Daniel smiled, a warmth spreading through him. "Funny, I was just thinking the same thing." Emily ran up, tugging his sleeve. "Daddy, can we come back again?" Oliver chimed in. "Please!" Margaret laughed, her eyes glistening. In that moment, Daniel realized that what began as a lost opportunity had turned into the greatest gift of all. A new chapter not just for his career, but for his heart. Sometimes missing one flight means finding your true destination.